If you want a rocket and fallback camera, the best graphics settings and all the options that help you in the game, then you're in the right place. Because in this guide, we take a detailed look at all the important options in the game, the most important buttons and shortcuts. And in addition, we explain to you what E.S.P, GSafe and so mean, how to set it up optimally and what benefits you can draw from it. Because with this you can also switch targets off the ground precisely or avoid a black and redout. We start with the most important standard graphics and sound options. Depending on the game version, Star Citizen may show you a small QR code at the top right corner. If you don't want to see it, just go to the options and under graphics settings at the bottom you will find the session information, which can we deactivate. For the optimal graphics settings, we recommend either the full screen mode or the borderless mode, which can offer you more options. You set the quality settings to high or very high if possible. The higher your general graphics settings are, the more your graphics card will be tried to burden. You can set the object, tessellation and screen space shadows to at least medium, but also high. These have little impact on the performance. Even more important, however, are the volumetric clouds. You should set them to medium and only if necessary to higher levels, because these cost a lot of power. We recommend the field of view of 90, motion blur to be completely deactivated, as well as V-sync and sharpening, chromatic aberration and film grain to be first deactivated. The audio settings are a matter of taste here, but you should set the dynamic range to maximum, so full, and also set your device optimization to either headphones or a sound system. And you should definitely set the audio-driven camera shake strength to 0, because otherwise you will have effects in the game, which can have a camera movement as a result. Also, the audio output when tabbing out can also be activated. In the next step, we will upgrade your image a bit, giving it more depth, more color and generally a little more contrast. We recommend raising the gamma slightly to 52 as well as the brightness, but the contrast to about 55. This gives you a slightly richer and more pleasant image, depending on the monitor. But the setting to sharpening is a matter of taste. We deactivate the other options. With deactivating sharpening, we already have an appealing image. However, we recommend activating the sharpening to 100. Here we have more sharpness in all areas, but this is a matter of taste. Let's get to the most important game settings. We leave the cinematic cameras on, more on this later for the rocket camera, and we deactivate vibrations and camera spring movement. And on the show and control hints, we have the option to display additional help in the game or to deactivate them. Once you have activated this option, you will have different helps in the various game areas, which are displayed on the right as a context menu. And if you are no longer a beginner, you can safely deactivate them. Then you will not have any disturbing additional information in the game. Under the item ship entry labels, we can activate the option to let us know where we can find access to various ships, so ramps, an entrance or even an elevator. This is also useful for big or new ships. The various toggle options for sprint, crouch, prone and of course also for aiming give you the option to choose whether you want to have a button pressed for the various action or just activate it once and then deactivate the mode again with a further press on this button. The most dynamic and our recommendation is to deactivate everything. So with this, we hold the button pressed until we release the button, for example when aiming. With the selection of the highlighting mode, we can select whether interactables, switches, surfaces, elevator panels and more will be automatically highlighted or only when activating the interaction mode with holding the F key. And this is especially helpful for new ships, because this way you will automatically see all the interactable options and will not forget a switch or a hatch. We recommend setting the star map value to 60 because a too fast scrolling often overscrolls some planets or options that you can jump on. But let's go to a more detailed point, namely the GSafe mode. Because in the game and especially in flight, different G-forces will affect us, which can lead to a blackout or a redout. We recommend deactivating GSafe in the standard. This also makes the following option to deactivate when boosting GSafe unnecessary. Otherwise, you can determine whether you want to deactivate GSafe only when boosting. We also recommend activating a button for the on and off for GSafe via the key bindings under flight movements. because this way you can experiment without problems at first and get to know the effects of GSafe. But how does GSafe work? Depending on which thrust we move in one direction, different G-forces can affect us, here in the lower right corner. If we activate GSafe, the thrust will be reduced accordingly, as so not to cause a blackout. With the activated GSafe, we have the option of giving unlimited thrust depending on your ship. And so it can also be that we have a blackout relatively quickly. But you can easily avoid a blackout or redout. If you are about to have a blackout, simply give a short thrust in the opposite direction, so with our flight forward, a short thrust backwards for a very short time. And so you can always avoid a redout or blackout in every flight movement. Because as soon as you have given some counter thrust, you will automatically be able to act again. And you also have no problems with blackouts or redouts as soon as you are in third-person view of the ship, because there you can avoid a blackout. But if you switch back to the cockpit, you have a blackout again. But we come to the next interesting option, namely E.S.P, the Enhanced Stick Precision. And not only for joystick users, this option is very interesting. But what is E.S.P? First, we set the zone to the maximum just like the dampening curve. If we now capture a target and try to aim at it, our speed is significantly reduced by our cursor. The zone value indicates how close we have to aim at our target with our crosshair. So, the larger this zone is, the less accurate we have to aim to our target. And the dampening determines how much our movement is limited, the closer we get to the target or stay within the zone. And here we have noticed this very clearly. If we reduce this to the minimum, we have almost no more space. If we don't hit the target precisely, there will be no slowing down. And the dampening value determines how much our control input slows down and stays on the target. We therefore recommend limiting the E.S.P in the zone and turning off the dampening as much as possible. Because this way we can aim more accurately, just like in a shooter. Also, in addition, the flight behavior remains predictable and is not significantly limited just because we have an active target. In addition, you will find the E.S.P settings not only for ships, but also for vehicles and turrets. And here too, you can do the same. The next area is Vjoy, so your virtual joystick. Here we can deactivate, activate or only activate the visibility when using a mouse. Activating Vjoy has the advantage that you can see how and where your control inputs are being operated and how intensively, also with the joystick. But here too, we have the possibility to indicate with the range, yaw and pitch how strong a delay occurs. This means whether a slow acceleration of the control input takes place or directly. Therefore, we recommend setting Vjoy range, yaw and pitch to the minimum as well as the dead zone. This way, you have an absolutely direct control input and your ship steers without a delay. And similar to E.S.P, you can find these settings for drivers and also for turrets. This makes your entire control more crisp. And at this point we see a direct comparison of the control variants, once with slight delay and once directly. We also recommend permanently activating the velocity indicator, because this always gives us a small symbol that shows us the direction in which we are traveling, either forward or backward. The arrows that point to each other shows that we are moving forward, and the arrows that point outwards show that we are moving backward. And thanks to this display, we always see, regardless of whether we are in a coupled or decoupled mode, in which direction our ship is moving. And so collisions can be avoided. Now we come to one of the most immersive functions, which can also cause a lot of trouble. Namely the look ahead function. When this is activated, our character automatically follows the targeted area, regardless of where it is, unless it is right behind us. But this can lead to impairments if we steer our ships. In addition, we can also perceive this function with a Tobii eye tracker or another head or eye tracker. Then, however, we have no problem implementing our control accordingly. Therefore, we recommend deactivating all look-ahead functions and also setting the different values to 0. And here too, not only in ships, but also in vehicles or turrets. So in the future we will only look where we want to go. And targeted enemies, if they are outside our field of view, have a marker. Especially for ground combat or the fight against non-targeted targets, the fallback convergence distance is recommended. This means the distance in meters to which our weapons are set. We recommend the minimum value of 50 or a maximum of 100 meters. If we do not target a target, our weapons are then set to this distance. So if we fight ground targets which are not marked, like foot troops, we have a distance of 50 to 100 meters where we hit the target precisely. But as soon as we can mark a ship or a target on the other side, our weapon range is automatically adjusted, so you never miss. And for combat also interesting, the PIP versions we use. The target preservation either with a lag or a lead PIP is the next step. In addition, you can specify whether you want to have your own PIP for each weapon or a total for all weapons. With the lead PIP, we have a mark where the target is suspected. If we shoot at it, we hit the target if its flight direction does not change. With the lag PIP, this display turns around and we get the target mark on the target itself and have to align our weapons ourselves. This can be of interest, especially in PvP. Otherwise, the differences are a matter of taste. In the PvE area, the lead PIP offers the best advantages and is activated at standard. There could also be a hotkey here to switch during the flight. In short, we have to hit the target cross with the lead PIP, and with the lag PIP, we bring the target cross to our opponent. In the area of social settings, we have different options to display either friendly or hostile nameplates and playcards, as well as various requests to be automatically blocked, or only accept from friends. This eliminates annoying spam requests from other players who are unwanted. Directly below we find the emission HUD settings. Here we have two options. As standard, get our emissions displayed without numbers as a bar diagram, or with an activation exact values. We recommend this setting to on, as most bar displays are very inaccurate and we cannot actually visually perceive differences, but the values are very clearly different from each other. And so you not only have an accurate view of your heat signature or your EM signature, but also see how the differences behave when activating, for example, an EMP. And these values are the main values for a stealth gameplay. You want more tactical depth? With a key assignment of the cinematic camera, which we have already activated in the gameplay options under vehicle weapons, as well as on the vehicle seats and operators still look behind mode. Because these two functions have a real playful added value. Because, for example, with the look behind option, we can look directly behind us with a key, or below us depending on which ship we are flying. And this makes it not only easy to keep an overview, but also to keep an eye of our enemies. And after we have activated the cinematic cameras under the gameplay options, we can use the rocket camera directly after we have fired a rocket or a torpedo, using the corresponding key. And it has the range as far as our rocket or torpedo goes. And that's not just interesting for video recordings. So you can, for example, spy and far-fetched opponents with our rocket camera without any problems, what is going on there and who is waiting for you. Another useful key bindings are the keys for turrets, so the remote turrets then you can switch through in the different ships. Because in order to search the corresponding control panel for different remote turrets in different ships, you can also simply put a key on it. And depending on how many of these turrets are available, you can also switch through them. So with an exit from the turret with the F button and the press of the / command again, we get to the next turret. Alternatively, we can also give each turret its own key, so that we can get directly into the turret we want to select. Because with a large number of ships, we not only have the option of accessing one remote turret, but several, and every second is important in combat. This saves you a lot of time. It can also be time-saving to use the Radial menu when you are in the ship. Because with holding the F button and the right click you get the circle menu. Alternatively, You can also press individual buttons with a holding of the F button in their interaction mode. But we find these in the Radial menu for each chip. And as a nice side effect, you can also find the corresponding key bindings, if they are in use. So you don't have to go to the options menu to see which key binding is assigned for which function. And this is not only helpful for beginners, especially since different functions, such as solving all different anchor points, are also possible via this menu. But let's go to the FPS area. With the press of the J button, you can, if available, make various modifications to your weapon. It is important to include the respective modifications in your inventory. And you can activate modifications such as a laser pointer or a flashlight with U. And in addition, different weapons offer different fire modes, which can be switched with B. And of course, it is also possible to make individual modifications here and there with a little fingertip feeling and call. But of course, this can be quite tricky and the wrong one is often chosen. And of course, this not only works with firearms but also with various industrial devices, so everything you can hold in your hands. For example, you can also quickly and effectively attach your multi-tool with corresponding attachments. And as I said, unless you don't have them in your inventory. And here's a hint. Attachments such as canisters must be also in your inventory, as they can otherwise only be taken from your suit via the reload function. And with that, I say goodbye until next time, see you soon, and of course, see you in the verse. And thanks for watching, goodbye.